Welcome to the Sales Dojo podcast. The podcasts are here to help you address the real issues salespeople face every single day.
So I was just checking the other day, and it's quite possible we could break a record from 2026 very soon, in that if the three of us together on 3 consecutive podcasts, it'll be the first time in 2026.
Woo!
What is the chances of that?
Oh my goodness, I feel very guilty. It's probably mainly my fault.
I mean, me and Chris do blame you completely for the breakup of the band when you're not here, which is every other week. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 posts. The first one is one of yours, Chris.
Yeah, well, it's not one of mine. It's one I shared. It's Connor Hogg. All right, Connor, if you're listening, building tech sales teams and director at Magnus and Wolf.
Cool.
Loving all the words here, loving all the names. Stood out to me straight away because it's a list. It's a top 5. I love a list. It's a really good way to get information across, isn't it? So I'm going to go through, they're all about cold calling. So he says, if you're new to cold calling and you're struggling, you're not alone. After doing a fair share of cold calling myself and working with many salespeople who started in the trenches, I'd look to focus on these fundamentals. So he's given a list of 5 fundamentals for cold calling. We wanted to share it with listeners to see if this helps you at all. He says, number 1, reps. Like anything, the more you do it, the better results you get. There's no shortcut. Sales is a numbers game. There's only 5, so I'm going to go through them, and then I'm going to go to Leon first for your favourite one. Number 2, mentorship. Find someone who's great at it and learn from them. That's why I always say, get yourself in the office. You'll pick up little things that make a big difference. Number 3, Connor says, preparation. The real work happens before you even pick up the phone. Research your prospects, anticipate objections, and know the direction you want your calls to go in. Number 4 says mindset. Go in expecting to add value. Not just make a sale. If you believe you're helping someone solve a problem, it changes your confidence, tone, and your results. And number 5, embrace failure. Rejection's just part of the game. Don't let it discourage you. Every rejection is a lesson. But to be honest, there's no easy hack, just hard work, discipline, and willingness to learn. Would you add anything else? Asks Connor. So Connor, love a list, love a lot of stuff that's on there as well. But me. It's not about me. Leon, talk us through that. Is there anything that stands out as a positive to you on that list?
Yeah. So I like the post as well. And I think like when you have sayings and you've got like many hands make light work, but you've also got too many cooks spoil the broth, and they can be for and again. I think the preparation one is a little bit like that, in that, I'm all for hard work begins before you pick up the phone, research your prospects, anticipate objections, and know the direction you want your calls to go in. However, don't fucking spend 6 hours in the morning researching your prospects before you get on the phone, because it'll be 4 o'clock then and you won't manage to speak to anyone. And the other as well is, like, knowing the direction you want your calls to go in makes me feel a little bit, I don't know, I've got a bit of a knot in my stomach on that. I think you need to be more willing to go whichever direction the prospect that you call and wants to go in, within reason. Obviously, you don't want to start talking about something completely irrelevant, but I just think sometimes, I agree preparation is important, but I think sometimes if you try and force someone down an alley, that's when you feel a little bit icky and it feels like you're trying to get someone to do something. We've all been on calls or had demos where someone goes, I just want to go through these 32 slides with you. And it's like, well, why? I'm ready to buy. Or where they say, ask you the question, and then you give them an answer, and the answer opens up the opportunity for them to elaborate and go in a different direction. And then they ask you question number 16 because it's after number 15, and it's just totally without context and feels like they're just questioning you. So I love the reps 100%. I say I just err on the side of caution with the prep stuff. What about you, Susie?
I've only been doing a podcast for a few years and I just struggled to find my unmic button once again, but it's here now. I like this list. I think it's very helpful. And from what I see in the field, especially with people who are doing a lot of cold calls, is that the thing that gets in the way most of all is their own head. It's what they're thinking. They find things to get in the way, procrastination, etc., etc. So I believe that all 5 of these things will help with the majority of cases when it comes to people failing at cold calling or not doing such a good job or not being able to find their rhythm and stuff. Reps is part of that. Prep, I think, is just like you said, Leon, you can't do too much prep, but I think it's good to be prepared. I think mindset's super important. Go into this looking forward to speaking to somebody rather than expecting the rejection, which is almost the number 5 on there, the embrace of failure. So I think it's a really, really good list. And yeah, would I add anything? I would probably add feedback loop of some kind of type in there, whether you're recording the calls if that's possible, maybe you're just making notes about how calls were, like constant feedback, because you could do all of this stuff and be doing something wrong, and if you're not getting the feedback that it's going wrong, how are you ever going to know? So that would be something that I'd probably add to the list, just taking it out of context. Chris?
Yeah, I think that's a great shout, Susie. I like it because it's proper practical advice and it's not somebody being a biff. Stand out to me. I'm with you, Leon, on the prep. Preparation is often procrastination with a disguise on. And we sit there and you finally take the hat off at 3 p.m. and, I've not got any work done. So you've got to be careful with that. To me, in that preparation one, though, anticipate objections and rehearse your replies. You need to be so ready for them that you're not shocked when you hear them. Like so often, and Susie, Leon, we all listen to a lot of recorded sales calls through the year, don't we? And quite often we'll hear something like, we haven't got any need for that right now. And the salesperson sounds shocked. Well, like, statistically speaking, they probably haven't. Like, you can't be shocked by that. You need to be well prepared and well rehearsed with your reply for these most common objections to get further in. And I also love embrace failure. Don't let it discourage you. Every rejection is a lesson if you look for the lesson. Otherwise, it's just going to feel bad. But I wouldn't go as far as to say let it be water off a duck's back. Like, just recognise it is going to hurt a bit now and then, and that's okay. Don't think you're a failure because the rejections made you feel a bit shitty. We're all humans in that. But yeah, it's a great list. Big standout to me, and I know it's a controversial subject that people have got opinions on at the moment, is mentorship. Find someone who's great at it and learn from them, 100%. That's why I always say get yourself in the office. Yeah, I'm kind of with you here, Connor. Maybe not 5 days a week if you work from home, but if you're brand new to a cold calling role, you're not going to get better sat by yourself in your mum's bedroom 5 days a week. You need to go and immerse yourself in that experience. So really find a way to go and sit with people doing this. You won't regret it. You really won't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one as well. I've mentioned it loads of times, and I'm sure I've bored people. Well, I'm sure I've bored people about everything I ever talk about on a podcast, but I'm sure I've bored people about the stuff around the sales team. So when we had a shop floor with like 30, 40 people, when someone learns how to handle an objection, you could see it cascading across the floor, and everyone's like, what did he say? How did you say that? What did you do? That learning by osmosis is really good. The only thing, reading this again and then hearing us talk, is I'm not into number 5. So, and the reason I'm not into number 5 is that I don't think you should have failure in it. So if you reframe it so that you're just trying to get people to make decisions, if the decision is no, you've not failed, you've actually succeeded in getting them to make a decision. The decision just is that they're not going to go with you. So I don't like the idea of thinking about rejection or failure and just talking about maybe getting good at helping people make decisions, so that way you don't ever get upset by rejection. I mean, I say that as someone who got someone say no last week, and I was going to drive around there and punch him in the neck. I'm not going to lie, because it's not the kind of thing that you can automatically switch off, but it's kind of the mindset that you want. You don't want it to feel like your job is to get them to say yes, therefore them saying no is a rejection. It's not. It just means they're not in a position to buy the product or service. I think you mentioned it before, Chris, but I was reading the other day, it's 95% of your target market is not in a position to buy your product or service at any given time. It's a big number. Like,
pyramid.
Yeah, that's a big number. Like, and if you're assuming that they all say yes, 95% of the time you're wrong. God, that felt like felt a bit like a film, that, didn't it?
Well, on that one, there's the number 4 mindset, go in expecting to add value. Value word, sorry. I debate that one now. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty. I would say it's probably a better mindset to expect you can't add value and to dig down to see if you possibly could.
I like that. I like that.
It's go with the reverse mindset of, you know what, they're probably not in the marketplace. Let's find out when they are, what they've done previously to be in the marketplace and how they're currently solving it. I was dealing with a finance company recently. If you listen, I won't name names, but you know who you are. Lovely to have you listening.
Nice one, Barclays.
Yeah, that's it. Cheers, fellas. And they were starting phone calls with a really close question. Do you need any finance right now? No. Okay, bye. And you're like, well, 3% chance. Like, you're going to have to make 100 calls to maybe get somebody to say yes. Go in assuming they don't. Hey, typically when I first reach out to people, they've got no immediate need for finance. When you do have a need arise, though, how do you typically look at it? Like, get into that side of the discovery. So, yeah, sorry, number 4. Connor, we're going to tear your whole post apart. That's rubbish. No, it is really good. Well done, Connor.
It is, but I agree with you on that point as well. Like,
yeah.
The key thing with value is it's only in the eye of the beholder. So, like, when people start trying to add value and give value when they've got no idea what someone fucking values, it's not going to work. All that's going to do is make you a bit miffed that someone didn't realize that your car has these really cool go faster stripes and he wasn't interested in that. He's looking for boot space, man, but you're trying to push these go faster stripes on him. Because we used to chat a lot. I mean, I was looking at a Ford Escort the other day with amazing go faster stripes on a Mark II. We used to chat a lot about people offering value online, Chris, rather sneakily and snidely, usually in WhatsApp groups, taking the piss out of people. But we used to say, like, people would talk about value like it was something that they understood what people wanted, and it totally isn't. It proper isn't. You can't.
It tends to be a byword covering up pitch vomit, is what it means.
Yes. Lead with value. Should we go on the next post?
Probably.
Another one of yours, Chris?
Hey, this is, we've got a theme already. We've gone from Connor Hogg to Maurice Cowhig. Maurice, you space cowboy. Lovely to see a post on LinkedIn from you. We like this. You know what? It's quite basic, and I'm a massive fan of that, because if you don't have a good foundation, you're knackered. Maurice says why opening is more important than closing a sale. And this stood out because I think all 3 of us have had people discuss this with us this year. We need to close more. We need to close more business. We need closing skills. We need a closer. And it just screams of 1980s double glazing piano tie, doesn't it? So Maurice says why opening is more important than closing a sale. He says, I've had a lot of sales training that seems to be obsessed with closing whilst ignoring the importance of the open. What do I mean by opening the sale? It's the initial discussion where you need to identify a need and establish a set of criteria. Failure to do this will make closing the sale difficult or even impossible. Specifically, you need to identify a real need, quantify its importance, the implications of not dealing with it, and how you can help. You do this by carefully crafted questioning. At this stage, you also need to establish if your contact has the budget and authority to make the necessary changes, how much of your sales pipeline is doomed because you failed to open correctly. I think what Maurice is getting at here is, and we could go into deep discovery and everything else, the old adage, you can't close what isn't open. And people try and close stuff that I think we had a discussion the other week, just isn't at that stage. It's not at negotiation stage. It might not even have been at demo stage. You're well before that, and people are already trying to shut it down, and you're missing all this key information. So I think it's a great reminder, Maurice. And if you're struggling in cold outreach, I used to find this a lot. If you're struggling getting the close in, it's probably something you did in the first 20 seconds. Like, don't look at the end of your call. Look what you're doing early on is probably what you need to tweak more than what you're doing at the end. So, Maurice, love that. Susie, what do you think of Maurice's post? I'll fill her a bit while you press mute.
I don't know why I can't find the mute button today. It's like it's my first day on Zoom and I'm trying to find everything else. I haven't really got anything to add to this, Chris, because you and I work on projects. We work with clients together where they get a little bit flummox is maybe the wrong word. That's a bit too strong, but they don't understand why we come in and say we need to focus on discovery. We need to focus on deeper discovery when they're screaming, yeah, but we need to make more sales. And it's because if you haven't got them on the hook when you ask for the business, guess what? They're not going to give you the business. So you need to spend that time at the top of the funnel, at the beginning of the calls, to really A, figure out if you're a match, and B, help them to understand the impact of the decisions they're making and how important this is actually going to be for them and for their company. And I always describe it a lot of the time, we typically a sales funnel looks like a funnel, right? So it's wider at the top, typically because they're showing that here are all your leads, and then some of those leads will turn into prospects, and then some of those prospects will turn into, right? So that's how you qualify. But actually, I say that's also representative of the amount of time you should be spending in each of those stages. So spend a lot more time in that discovery stage and that qualification stage so that you don't waste it later on, or you don't get disappointed by the ghosting or the no's or all of that stuff that you get when you send a proposal or make an offer too quickly. So yeah, totally agree with this. I think it's a great, lovely, short and simple post. So Maurice, I'm not too sure how to say your name, but thank you.
Did a good job of it, Susie, to be fair. So when I read this post, it reminded me of, that live, laugh, love where you got in your living room. Not that actual thing, but I always thought that if I was going to have a living room with one of them on and Frankie let me, I would have a really nice phrase that I seen, which was stop closing sales, start opening relationships. And this is what this reminded me of, is all too often people are obsessed with closing and getting the closing, doing the closing and closing more sales and stuff like that. And I just think a lot of that's semantics and we just use the word in the wrong scenario. But when we said before about we've talked about loads, 97% of your target market not being in a position to buy your product or service. If you open a relationship with them, then they might, when they are in a position to buy your product or service, then they're likely to want to help you. The other thing that I was thinking of, want to buy from you, sorry. The other thing I was thinking of is, it's this need thing. So I was chatting to someone the other day talking about my journey in sales. Not like I was doing a talk on it. We were just having a chat about being in sales and how it's changed. And I was like, yeah, when I first started, I used to educate people. Like, my job was to tell people about mobile phones and what they did. And now my nephew, who's 14, knows more about mobile phones than me. And that's because the internet's invented in that period of time and Google's there. And often when it comes to identify, like, if you try and tell someone and sell someone something, they know more or they've worked some stuff out. And if you don't dig into that, they'll think they want to buy something for this reason that they think is the reason they need it, when it's probably not. Like, it's probably something slightly different. It doesn't mean the opportunity's not there, but if you do jump on something like tramp on a bag of chips too soon, you miss out on that opportunity to really get into the weeds on something. And then if you do get into the weeds on something and you find that you can't help them and you help them get their help elsewhere, whether it's another consultant, whether it's a different product, what comes back to you is, when they do need your product service, they'll definitely be in touch because you've done a good job for them. But they'll also likely recommend you much harder to somebody else because you've been really open and honest with them. And I think that's the thing that we'll often miss if we just try and close and getting closing is, you not only do you not win this opportunity, but you lose the chance to win that opportunity in the future and all the other opportunities that person's bouncing in and out of all the time, I think.
What that's also made me think of is, if you had to stencil a sales motto on the wall of your house for everyone to see, we know what Leon's would be. What would yours be, Susie? What would you stencil? And let's make this your office. So obviously you're not sat watching telly with your partner and your kids at night and they have to look at, like, always be qualifying or something on the wall. What would you like to put on the wall in your lovely home studio there?
Susie, if you're stuck, you can just say something, Jamie and me and Chris will go, yeah, sounds good, and we won't have a...
Yeah, love that.
Well, I did, in my old office, I did have something on my wall, which is now in our kitchen. So, which is, stell dich vor, die Welt ist super und du bist schuld. Which means,
super duper.
Yeah. What this means is, imagine the world turns out great, as in your future turns out great and it was all your fault.
Oh, wow, that's deep.
It's cool, right?
I love that. Is that from
Yeah.
Willy Wonka or something? I love that.
I have got no idea, but I loved it because it's just that positive message about like locus of control. You have control over your destiny a lot of the time. So yeah, I love it. That's what I have in my house, which used to be in my office. Does that count?
100%, mate.
Thanks.
100%. Love that. Very good. Maybe
good.
we should start stenciling stuff like Banksy. Let's just start putting like positive sales messages randomly around cities, see if we can help people hit more targets.
So I don't know if you've ever seen it in Liverpool, but there's a guy who's like a graffiti artist and he goes by the name of Cine Missione, I think. And that's what he does. Like on all of the green, what's it called? Virgin boxes, on a lot of them kind of things. He's just puts really positive posts on there. It's really cool.
Isn't the one on the way in? There's like an old building. I think it's occupied. Well, that's on the welcome sign, isn't it, as well? Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's big graffiti down the side of one building near Ellis Street, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what it says, but it's a proper, like, not a live, laugh, love. It's a, like, if it's going to be, it's up to me, sort of rah. And I'm like, yeah, but that's Liverpool through and through, innit? Super positive. Love it.
Yeah. The best thing about the signs coming into Liverpool is where it says the pies on the on the motorway coming in. Anyway, enough of the Liverpool graffiti podcast because we're going to save that for next week. Chris, before we do move on, though, what would be yours on your background?
I was hoping we got past this without you realising because I couldn't think of one. To be fair, I have got as a screensaver on my phone, nobody cares, work harder, which I find quite motivated in the morning. But it's a bit blunt. I think maybe I might have one of my favourites is sound like you mean business, not like you need business.
Yeah,
which I think is a great rule for all salespeople.
I also think you should get that one on your phone in the workspace that Jen uses. You know.
Well, yeah,
sign it on the bottom. Susie, you was into German stuff, so we've got a German post, but I did translate it already. So let me just show the original so you can read it in German. There you go.
I think it's good in English too.
Okay.
We haven't mentioned the show translation button for a while, but I don't think it's so important because the show translation button on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn?
No.
We need to go back and find all the times that I've mentioned it, all the reactions. We could do a proper little reel of you reacting or pretending to react as it's the first time you've heard me say that.
Glenn will be made up with that job you've just created for him.
Sorry, Glenn.
Glenn, do you have a spare 45 hours next week?
I've got a
job for you.
Sauce. But I shared this post today because it stood out to me, not only because it's from a bloke that I know called Guido Steinberg, who lives in Germany. I think he has a sausage dog, Chris. I think he's a fan of the old Dachshund. Yeah, and he basically says, in English, the translation is the best decisions are not made at a desk. They arise when the head is cleared. Outside, in nature. Anyone who knows me knows that I love nature. This is Guido who's saying that I too like nature too. That's exactly what I used this weekend. Not an everyday occurrence, no distractions, focus only on the crucial questions. And he goes on to talk about like how he used his time outside to clear his head. Basically, what he's trying to encourage us to do is to stop and have a think about things. And I think this links to the first post that was shared as well from Connor Hogg around that repetition, which I think is important. We also need to take a breath to think about things. And I remember it was something that I hardly ever had a chance to do in my sales career, in my sales leadership career, and if I'm honest, in my business owner career as well. I don't give myself enough of a chance to have a break and think. There are a few moments that I can remember where I've really managed to get clarity. One of them was when I took a trip around the world for 7 months. I certainly cleared my head. I certainly got that downtime and I gave myself space to think. Now, I know we don't all have a luxury of going on holiday for 7 months, but there are other things that can happen or you can do as well to give yourself that breathing time. On the other extreme, the other place I have all my best ideas. Any idea where it is, Leon and Chris?
It's out on the loo.
On the loo, right?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Whatever that line is at the back of a tennis court.
Oh, on the
service line.
baseline. So okay, yes, service line is the one in front. But yeah, the baseline, yeah. Um um no, I don't think I do have my best ideas on the tennis court or on the loo, but it's
Do we
close.
keep guessing?
In the shower. In the shower. When I've got that like 5 to 10 minutes of having a wash, washing my hair, all of that, and I've got nothing else to distract me other than the job at hand, which is to get clean, that is where I have my best ideas. And it's
10
actually
minutes in
huh?
the shower. 10 minutes in the
No,
shower.
it's
What are you
not.
doing?
It's not 10 minutes. That was I'm a quick showerer. I'm probably the fastest in our family. It's probably more like 2 minutes, maybe 3. I'll have to time it.
You need to
But
do a competition where everyone goes in the shower and sees how fast they are in your
as
house.
long as we don't have to video it, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that gets a bit weird then, Susie.
But that's where I have my best ideas. And it's actually one of the reasons we have an Alexa in our bathroom is so that I can shout at it and tell it to write down my ideas because I don't have pen and paper in a shower. So yeah, I just wanted to encourage people to take some time out, make sure you're giving yourself time to breathe and not just going and getting your lunch from around the corner, like properly doing nothing. Leon, do you have anything that you do to help you with your ideas, with your clarity?
Yeah, so I would say most of the time, ideas wise, comes from when I'm walking.
Mm.
So when I'm out for a walk or when I'm on the allotments or often when I'm driving actually as well. But yeah, I agree. And when I read this post from you, what I was thinking of was I'd had a chat with 2 people in the last 2 weeks and I went, let's have a look at your diary, see how it's going. And they were just back to back to back to back to back with meetings. And I just said, like, where do you think? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you've just done 3 hours on the phone, then you've done a 2-hour meeting, then you've done 3 hours on the phone, and then you've done an hour of admin. Where's the time that you think? And I think it's really important to spend time doing that. I agree with you.
Oh, thanks. Am
First
I going to
time
get everyone in agreement on this post? No sitting on the fence or no other answers, Chris?
No sitting on the fence. How dare she?
I was listening to a post the other day and one of you definitely sat on the fence when I was away.
Chris, it was Chris.
I'm all right with that. You can throw me under the bus. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, if somebody disagrees with this, then they're just a turbo mong, aren't they? They can't, well, we're not allowed to say that, are we? Sorry, Emily, you can edit that bit out. Yeah, for me, I mean, yeah, you know what my love of the countryside and mountains and everything is. I go and walk the dog. I was just thinking as we were reading this post, Susie, I did a bit of thinking yesterday. I've done some work. I'm running a webinar this week and I'm really looking forward to it for a big IT company. And I just got stuck with a bit and I really tried to work at it and it wasn't coming. So I made a cup of tea and I went and sat outside. I'm going to send you the video, which I know doesn't make great podcast. And it was deafening. It was just birds tweeting, ducks quacking, cows mooing. For those listening, I live in the middle of nowhere. You could hear the river, you could hear all this, and it's just an absolute mind reset for me. Just being outside. I think to live in the centre of London 7 days a week would be my worst nightmare. I have to be out there. So yeah, I love this. Take time to switch off. There's a lot of research into this, isn't there, about the power of switching off, thinking of a problem for a time and then walking away and doing something utterly unrelated. And your subconscious carries on working on that problem and you suddenly start getting lots of ideas. I found recently I made the mistake with coaching. I wasn't leaving big enough gaps between coaching sessions. And I've spent an hour really helping somebody in the retail market. And then I've gone straight into helping somebody with finance. And then after that, I'm helping somebody in SaaS. And my head's all over the place. You need that reset time. It's the same if you're in sales. If you're making call after call after call, and then you go straight in a meeting, no, you've got to give yourself those gaps. Give your brain a bit of a control-alt-delete. So I love that.
I love it too. I picked a couple of posts. The first one was from Joe Emery. And I'm not going to lie, the reason why I brought this one up was because he starts with saying that making sales is like chatting up a beautiful woman. And I automatically did that voice in my head off. Is it the Fast Show or Harry Enfield?
With Tony on the Fast Show, yeah.
It's Tony, yeah. But yeah, he goes on to say, look, I used to be terrified of approaching women I found attractive. The fear of rejection would kick in. I'd never pluck up the courage. So I played the game 10 numbers. I approached 10 women. First one, no. Second one, no. Third one, no. Fourth one, no. Fifth one, yes. Then I'd start over again. It's the same with sales. And I kind of like the idea of this asking 10 and seeing what happens. But what if the fifth one who said yes wants to go out with you? You're just carrying on and collecting lots of females or people of the opposite sex to go out with. How does it work?
Well, I think he's going for the 10 no's rather than the 10 numbers. So he's trying to get 10 people in a row to say no, and it's actually really difficult to do that. So that's why he had to restart it again, because the fifth one said yes, so he had to then go and try again with another 10 women. But that's I think, having not really familiarised myself with the post all that much, I think that's what he's getting at, is basically make it into a game, try and get 10 no's from businesses rather than 10 yeses, and you'll probably find that the fifth one will say, yes, I'm interested.
I like that. And he does then turn that into business owners and say, some ignore you, one says yes, then you start again. Try the numbers 10s game now. And after enjoying the first line of it and then wondering what the hell he was on about with the women, what I did like was the gamification of it. And what it reminded me of was the amount of times that we got such good results from the sales team during the World Cup, during the Euros, when what we did is we gamified whatever was going on, and anyone got a meeting, got a goal scorer, anyone who got a meeting got a team, and we changed the focus of, are we getting a yes or a no? Are we doing what we should be doing, to competing against each other for something completely differently? And the amount of times that worked. What do you think about it, Chris? Have you played the 10s game since before you was with Jen, obviously?
I'm loath to say anything about this post without getting myself into trouble, to be honest with you.
Glenn, if you're listening, just edit the whole of Chris's thing out, mate.
Yeah, just pretend that I never existed, if that's possible, Emily. So, hey, listen, the gamification of it, 100%, and sales is a numbers game. Regardless of what you say, you've just got to be playing the right numbers. That's all. There's a lot more nuance to it, but it is ultimately a numbers game. And it is this. If you could just scroll down for me a bit, Leon, that would be glorious. So there was a bit further down the post that stood out to me. It was because I stopped sounding like I needed the yes. That's the bit that stands out to me. If you're there because you need that meeting, you need that sale, rather than you're curious to see if you should have that meeting or should have that sale, it's a completely different mindset towards why you're picking up the phone. And as we said earlier, check buyers, pyramid, etc. Most people aren't in a position to do business with you. Remember that. That's cool. So you're going to be curious about, how do they solve this problem currently? Have they even got this problem? Would it make sense to meet in the future to discuss this? What impact is that problem having? If you're phoning people because you want that yes, you get happy ears, you don't ask questions, you jump to solution mode too soon. What if the fifth woman in this analogy says yes, and you really don't like them? Do you go on the date anyway? Like, how does that work? What if they're not a fit? You've not qualified them, which is such objectification. It's dreadful, isn't it? So I'm not going to go near the woman analogy. It's very bold of you, Joe, but I know you've said you're self-deprecating later in the post. It's satire. But yeah, treat it as a game. That mindset's so crucial, isn't it? I get it. Yeah, try the 10s game. 10 before 10. That's a great 10s game you talk about, isn't it, Leon?
Yeah. Susie, I feel like we'd be cheating asking you about this, because if you approach 10 men, the first one would definitely say yes, and so would the second and the third. We know that for a fact.
You are too kind and very good liars. I have definitely had my fair share of no's. In fact, I would say I had a lot more no's than I did yeses. So, yeah.
Tell us who they are. We'll go and find them. All right.
Susie, stop hanging around outside blind schools.
Yeah.
I think I could write a book about my dating before I met Dirk. So
we would read that.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a bestseller one day. I can make my money and retire from it.
We're not at the end of the post then, Susie. No, okay. I shall move on to the final one, which is from Eric Inaki Nieto Cervantes. Eric is a technical sales solution consultant and biz development. His post says, I've learned that the best sales professionals don't just sell. He says they diagnose, they solve, they create momentum. Too often, technical and commercial worlds operate separately. The opportunity happens when someone can bridge both. That has been the foundation of my path, building at the intersection of technical sales, solution consulting, and biz development. He then goes on to say what he can help and what is about his mindset. And I'll mention his name again in a second, because the reason he's put this post out there is because he's currently looking for the role. So we'll give him a share in a minute. But I really like the first bit, and I know we've had loads of conversations about this before, me and you, Chris, is about the diagnose thing. And I wanted to maybe see if you could mention the really cool thing you say about doctors and diagnosing when it comes to sales.
I think it's a very old adage about it, but it's so true. Eric, we're going to help you here as well, because we like what you say. Yeah, here's the thing. So I've actually spent a lot of my weekend, because I'm absolute mega nerd, watching recorded sales meetings for a reason. It's part of a project that I'm working on. And there is a standout theme across so many of them that I'm watching, is that salespeople go to solution mode far too quickly, because they hear any ounce of need that they can satisfy. They get all giddy like a little newborn puppy, and we can help with that. We've got this thing. And I get it. They're enthusiastic about the product. But it's the same as with the doctor. If you said, oh, well, doc, I've come here because I've got a bit of a headache. And they go, oh, we got some headache pills. They're great headache pills. Let's do these headache pills. No, well, hang on a minute. How long's your headache been going on for? Where in your head is it? How strong it is? What's it stopping you from doing? Is there a family history of headaches? Because if you give somebody paracetamol without questioning properly and they turn out they're about to have a stroke, you're going to get struck off as a doctor. It's exactly the same in sales. When you hear a need, don't solve it. Dig. Find out what's really going on. Leon, I'm not going to quote you without saying it's you. Be a right nosy so-and-so. Yeah. Be super curious, because the answers you get to your early questions are only ever headline. And listen to what they're saying. There was a great meeting I was watching, and credit to the person that picked up on it. This person said, yeah, we should be looking at doing this like early July. And they stopped and they went, oh, should. And it wasn't even a question. They just repeated the word should back to them. And they went, well, there is a few budget issues we've got, and the CTO isn't that bought into it. And all of a sudden, these huge barriers came out that they would have completely overlooked and got shocked when they got ghosted by just repeating one word. Why? Because they were curious, like a doctor should be. So yeah, right with you, Eric. Just from that, love them.
Susie?
I agree too. I mean, it goes back into the other conversation we were having about like deeper discovery and everything. So I think it's absolutely right. And I think, Eric, with your experience in technical sales, even more important. Chris and I did some training recently with some technical sales teams, and their role, or your role, is so important, because you need to make that connection between what the stuff you're selling can do and what that means for the customer. So you need to understand them even better sometimes than the rep, I would say. So yeah, I think diagnosing, solving, and also that creating momentum with the impact, talking about what impact does this decision have on you, positive or negative? What impact does it have if you do nothing? Really picking up on that stuff, I think is so important. So Eric, if your post is anything to go by, I think you would be a great addition to any team. So I hope you find a new role really soon. Leon, over to you. What would you like to say about it?
Yeah, nothing else to add on that post, to be honest with you. I'm hoping by the time this podcast goes out, Eric's already found that role, and we're just wasting his time by mentioning his name, and he just gets loads of follows and contacts us with an injunction to stop talking about him on our podcast, to be honest with you. But if you are listening and you're looking for someone who is technical enough to understand complexity, commercial enough to generate opportunities, but also consultative enough to build trust, Eric Anaki Nieto Cervantes, whose name I've probably butchered, but I'm hoping you'll forgive me, could just be your man. It looks like he's based in Mexico City, metropolitan area. He's done biz development, technical sales, and social consultant. So if that sounds like the kind of person you're looking for, give him a little tinkle. So let's try and find a theme for Susie, shall we? So the first theme that we had was kind of about animals, wasn't it? So we had Conor Hogg talking about if you're cold, calling and struggling. He gave us a top 5. We then went on to a post from Maurice Cowhig, who was talking about opening a relationship rather than closing a sale. Next post was from Guido, was talking about headspace and getting yourself out there. Joe Emery give us a boss rendition of the guy Swiss Tony from the Fast Show. And then finally, Eric gave us some really good hints and tips from his experience in sales. And I'm going to suggest that our theme today is sales and selling. So look, if you found it useful, if you enjoyed what we said, if you've seen a post on LinkedIn and you think it's brilliant, or if you've seen one that's a bit rubbish and you want Susie to slag it off, send us an email to improve@thesalesdojo.com and we'll pull it up and we'll go right through it. Have a great day.